The Zephyrian High Command had grown complacent in their dominance. For 3 centuries, their crystalline warships had carved through the galaxy like shards of death, subjugating species after species with methodical precision. Their latest conquest, the mining colony of Kepler Forum 42b, was supposed to be routine, a small human outpost with minimal defenses and a population barely worth counting. Admiral Thysica floated in her command chamber, her 6 arms gracefully manipulating holographic displays that showed the orbital defense platforms burning like dying stars. The humans had put up a pitiful resistance for exactly 14 minutes before their pathetic energy weapons fell silent. Now only the cleanup remained. "Scan for survivors," she commanded, her voice resonating through the crystalline walls of her flagship, the Eternal Dominance. The massive vessel, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, cast its shadow across the planet's surface like a geometric thundercloud. "Admiral," her tactical officer's voice carried a note of confusion. "Long-range sensors are detecting an anomaly at the system's edge." Thysica's compound eyes shifted to the display. A single contact, moving at impossible speeds. The signature was unlike anything in their vast databases, angular where Zephyrian ships were crystalline, dense where most species built light, and radiating heat signatures that suggested power cores operating at levels that should have torn any vessel apart. "Classification?" she demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. The design is primitive, crude even. But the energy readings..." The officer's voice trailed off as they all watched the contact decelerate from faster-than-light speeds to sublight in a manner that should have liquefied any crew inside. No species had ever demonstrated such casual disregard for the fundamental laws of inertia. "It appears to be human in origin," the tactical officer finally whispered. Thysica's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as the youngest sapient species, barely 300 years since their first interstellar flight. They built their ships like flying fortresses, all angles and armor plating, compensating for their technological inferiority with brute force engineering. Their fastest ships could barely achieve half the velocity of Zephyrian vessels, and their weapons were kinetic projectiles guided by primitive computers. "A single human vessel?" Thysica's voice carried the confidence of absolute superiority. "Against the combined might of the 3rd Expansion Fleet?" The unknown ship, if it could even be called a ship, continued its approach. As it drew closer, the Zephyrians could make out its design through their advanced sensors. It was exactly what they expected from humans. A massive, ugly thing that looked like someone had welded armor plating to a flying cathedral. Gun batteries protruded from its hull like metallic thorns, and crude radiator fins suggested cooling systems that belonged in a museum. "Admiral, it's transmitting," the communications officer announced. On screen. The hologram that materialized showed a human male, perhaps middle-aged by their standards, wearing what appeared to be a simple military uniform. His eyes were the color of Earth's sky, and when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "This is Captain Marcus Chen of the UES Retribution. You have attacked a human colony and murdered civilians under our protection. I am here to deliver justice." Thysica's entire command crew erupted in what passed for Zephyrian laughter. Sound like breaking glass. A single human ship against 12 Zephyrian dreadnoughts, each one individually capable of glassing planets. "Human," Thysica replied. "You are either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. Withdraw now, and we will grant you the mercy of a quick death." The human's expression didn't change. "No." That single word hung in the void between them like a declaration of war. "Admiral," the sensor operator's voice had lost all trace of amusement. "The human vessel is powering weapons. Energy readings are... This can't be correct." The Retribution had stopped its approach at precisely 1 million kilometers, well within range of Zephyrian weapons, but far enough that their crystalline hulls could absorb and redirect most kinetic attacks. It was a textbook example of human tactical ignorance. Then it opened fire. The humans had always been known for their kinetic weapons, crude railguns and missile systems that relied on mass and velocity rather than elegant energy manipulation. What emerged from the Retribution's weapon batteries was something else, entirely. Projectiles the size of small asteroids streaked across the vacuum at velocities that turned space itself into a weapon. But these weren't simple chunks of metal. Each projectile split apart as it flew, revealing sophisticated guidance systems and payloads that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. The first salvo struck the Eternal Dominance amidships with the force of a small star going nova. Thaisika felt the crystalline structure of her vessel scream as exotic matter tore through hull plating that had withstood the fury of a dozen different species' best weapons. "Return fire!" she screamed, but her tactical officer was already dead, flash vaporized when a human projectile had somehow curved around their defensive screens and punched through the command deck. The Zephyrian fleet responded with everything they had: energy lances that could cut through asteroids, gravity weapons that twisted space itself, particle beams that operated at near light speed. The combined firepower of the third expansion fleet lit up the vacuum like an artificial sun. The human ship absorbed it all. More than absorbed, it seemed to drink in the energy, its hull glowing white-hot but never breaking, never even slowing in its methodical destruction of everything around it. Return fire came in measured volleys, each shot precisely calculated to cause maximum damage while conserving ammunition. This wasn't the desperate last stand of an inferior species. This was pest control. As her flagship broke apart around her, Admiral Thaisika realized the terrible truth. The humans they had encountered before, those primitive, desperate fighters, in their crude ships, had been the equivalent of children playing with toys. This vessel, this impossibility floating in the void, represented what humans became when they stopped playing. The final transmission came as Thaisika floated in the wreckage of her command chamber, emergency atmosphere hissing out into space around her. The human captain's face appeared one last time on her dying screens. "We tried peace," he said simply. "You chose war. Now you understand the difference." The Retribution turned away from the expanding debris field that had once been the pride of the Zephyrian Empire and accelerated back toward the edge of the system. Within hours, it had vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only silence and the slow tumble of crystalline fragments catching starlight. In the vast databases of the Zephyrian Empire, a single entry was automatically updated. Human space, a void, at all costs. But there was no one left to read it and no one left to report what they had witnessed. The colony on Kepler 442b began rebuilding the next day,